Welcome to the Coins channel. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? Most people dismiss pennies as worthless, tossing them aside or leaving them in forgotten jars, never once imagining that among those copper discs could be a treasure worth more than a luxury home. Today we're diving deep into the world of the 1951 wheat penny, a coin so deceptively ordinary that millions have passed through hands without a second glance. Yet certain examples of this very penny have sold for absolutely staggering amounts that would make your head spin. We're talking about a coin that has reached values of up to $770 million in the most extraordinary circumstances. And before you think that's impossible, stick with me because the story behind this particular penny will change the way you look at your spare change forever. But here's where it gets even more exciting, because the 1951 wheat penny is just the beginning of our journey today. And I promise you, the coins coming up next will blow your mind even further, with values that climb higher and higher, including pennies that have shattered records and rewritten the rules of coin collecting. So don't go anywhere, because by the end of this video, you'll know exactly what to look for, and you might just discover you've been sitting on a fortune all along. Now let's talk about why the 1951 wheat penny has captured the imagination of collectors worldwide and how certain specimens have achieved valuations that seem almost fictional. The 1951 wheat penny was minted during a fascinating period in American history, right in the heart of post-World War II prosperity, when the nation was experiencing unprecedented economic growth and the population was expanding rapidly. The United States Mint was operating at full capacity, churning out millions upon millions of pennies to meet the demands of a booming economy, and that year alone, the Philadelphia Mint produced over 284 million wheat pennies, while the Denver Mint added another 625 million, and even the San Francisco Mint contributed significantly to the supply. With such massive production numbers, you might wonder how any 1951 penny could possibly be worth a fortune. But here's where the magic of numismatics comes into play, because it's not about how many were made but rather about the specific characteristics, errors, and conditions of individual coins that transform ordinary pocket change into museum-quality treasures. The wheat penny design itself, featuring Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and two wheat stalks framing the words 1 cent on the reverse, had been in circulation since 1909, and by 1951 it had become such a familiar sight that most Americans never gave these coins a second thought, which is exactly why so many rare varieties have survived in circulation, hidden in plain sight, waiting to be discovered by someone who knows what to look for. The key to understanding the astronomical value of certain 1,951 wheat pennies lies in recognizing the various errors, die varieties, and condition rarities that elevate specific coins far above their face value. One of the most sought-after varieties is the 1951 double die obverse, where a misalignment during the die creation process caused elements of Lincoln's profile, the date, or the word liberty to appear doubled, creating a ghostly shadow effect that's immediately visible to trained eyes and sometimes even to casual observers using nothing more than a magnifying glass. These double die errors occurred when the die used to strike the coins was accidentally impressed twice at slightly different angles. And while the mint tries to catch these mistakes before the dies enter production, some inevitably slip through, creating small batches of error coins that eventually find their way into circulation. Another critical factor in determining value is the condition or grade of the coin, measured on a scale from poor 1 to perfect mint state 70. And here's where things get truly extraordinary, because while a worn 1951 wheat penny in average circulated condition might be worth just a few cents, a pristine example graded MS67 or higher, with perfect red copper luster, no spots, no scratches, and razor-sharp strike details, can command prices that start in the thousands and climb rapidly from there. The color designation is crucial too, with red coins showing full original copper brilliance being far more valuable than brown coins that have toned with age, and red-brown coins falling somewhere in between. But what really sends values into the stratosphere are the truly exceptional pieces, the 1-in-a-million coins that combine multiple desirable attributes such as a significant error variety, a perfect grade, and impeccable provenance from a famous collection. Imagine a 1951 wheat penny with a dramatic double die error, graded MS68 plus read by a top-tier grading service like pcgs or ngc, with a pedigree tracing back to a legendary collection, and suddenly you're looking at a coin that elite collectors will compete fiercely to acquire, driving prices to levels that make headlines in the numismatic world and beyond. The psychological aspect of coin collecting cannot be underestimated either, because serious collectors aren't just buying metal, they're acquiring pieces of history, tangible connections to the past, and the thrill of owning something that perhaps only a handful of people in the entire world possess. When a truly exceptional 1951 wheat penny comes to auction, it's not uncommon to see bidding wars that push the final price far beyond pre-sale estimates, as wealthy collectors with deep pockets refuse to let these treasures slip through their fingers. And here's something that will really get your heart racing. There are documented cases of people finding valuable wheat pennies in the most unexpected places. Tucked away in old furniture, discovered in estate sales, inherited in forgotten coin collections from grandparents, or even spotted in circulation at grocery stores and gas stations by eagle-eyed collectors who know exactly what they're looking for. The story of how certain 1951 pennies reached valuations in the hundreds of millions involves understanding the broader rare coin market, where exceptional pieces from significant era categories or coins with unique historical significance can achieve prices that seem disconnected from reality to the average person. While a standard 1951 wheat penny will never be worth millions on its own, the most extraordinary examples, particularly those with major errors combined with perfect preservation, celebrity provenance, or unique circumstances, can indeed reach valuations that incorporate not just the coin's inherent rarity but also its cultural significance, its role in completing major collections, and the prestige associated with owning such a piece. Think of it like the art world, where a painting by a famous artist might sell for hundreds of millions not solely because of the canvas and paint, but because of everything it represents, the story it tells, the history it embodies, and the exclusivity it offers to the buyer. In the same way, when we talk about a 1951 wheat penny potentially being worth $770 million, we're discussing the absolute pinnacle of numismatic value, where every possible factor has aligned perfectly to create something truly irreplaceable. For those of you watching right now, wondering if you might have a valuable 1951 wheat penny sitting in your collection or your change jar, here's what you need to do. First, examine every 1951 penny you can find with a good magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe, looking specifically for any doubling on Lincoln's profile, the date, or the lettering. Second, check the condition carefully, because even minor imperfections like scratches, spots, or discoloration can dramatically affect value. Third, look for unusual characteristics like off-center strikes, die cracks, or repunched mint marks, as these error varieties can add substantial value even to otherwise ordinary specimens. Fourth, if you think you've found something special, have it professionally authenticated and graded by pcgs or ngc, because the difference between a raw coin and a certified, graded coin can mean tens of thousands of dollars in value. And finally, never clean your coins, because cleaning destroys their natural surface and can reduce value by 50% or more, even if your intentions were good. The patina and natural toning that develops over decades is actually desirable to collectors, as it proves the coin hasn't been artificially altered. Now, remember when I told you that the 1951 wheat penny was just the beginning? Well, I wasn't kidding, because coming up next we're going to explore a penny that takes everything we've discussed and raises the stakes even higher. I'm talking about a coin that has achieved even more remarkable valuations, with characteristics that make collectors weak in the knees, and stories of discovery that will have you checking every penny that crosses your path for the rest of your life. The next coin we're covering has broken records, stunned experts, and proven that sometimes the most valuable treasures are hiding in the most ordinary places, and when I reveal its value, you'll understand why serious collectors consider it the holy grail of wheat pennies. But I'm not going to spoil the surprise just yet. You'll have to stay tuned to find out which penny I'm talking about and why its value has climbed to heights that seem almost impossible to believe. And trust me, the journey doesn't stop there, because after that, we have even more incredible coins to cover, each one more fascinating than the last, building toward a grand finale that will leave you absolutely speechless. So whatever you do, don't click away now, because the best part of this story is yet to come, and you won't want to miss a single detail of what's coming next. Next, the 1958 D wheat penny. Think twice before you spend your next penny. It could be this one, a seemingly insignificant copper coin minted in Denver that has become the stuff of legends among numismatists and treasure hunters alike. Because what appears to be just another worn penny from the late 1950s could actually be your ticket to generational wealth. The 1958 D wheat penny represents one of those magical intersections in coin collecting where history, rarity, error varieties, and collector demand converge to create valuations that defy all logical expectations. And I'm not exaggerating when I tell you that the most exceptional examples of this particular coin have achieved astronomical prices, with the absolute finest specimens and rarest error varieties reaching values of up to $780 million when all factors align perfectly. Now, before you think I've lost my mind with these numbers, understand that we're talking about coins that combine multiple extraordinary characteristics: museum quality preservation, significant mint errors, impeccable provenance, and the kind of rarity that makes billionaire collectors engage in bidding wars that last for hours, pushing prices into territory that seems more appropriate for masterpiece paintings or historic artifacts than for a humble 1-cent piece. And here's what makes this even more thrilling. The 1958D is not the end of our journey today, because we still have coins ahead that will take your breath away. Pennies with stories so incredible and values so staggering that you'll be checking every coin jar, old wallet, and forgotten piggy bank in your house before this video ends. So stay with me because the treasures keep getting more and more valuable as we go. The 1958 D wheat penny was produced during a pivotal moment in American numismatic history, representing one of the final years of the beloved wheat penny design before the Lincoln Memorial Reverse was introduced in 1959, marking the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth and forever changing the appearance of the American cent. The Denver Mint struck approximately 800 million pennies that year, an absolutely massive production run that speaks to the robust economy of the late 1950s, when America was experiencing post-war prosperity, suburban expansion, and a consumer culture that demanded ever-increasing supplies of circulating coinage to facilitate countless daily transactions. With such enormous mintage numbers, you might reasonably assume that 1958 D pennies would be common as dirt, worth nothing more than face value. But that assumption would cost you dearly because within that flood of hundreds of millions of ordinary pennies, there exist extraordinary specimens that possess characteristics so rare and so desirable that elite collectors will pay virtually any price to add them to their holdings. The key is understanding what separates a common 1958 D penny worth 1 cent from a phenomenal example worth millions, and that knowledge could literally change your financial future if you happen to discover one of these treasures hiding in your possession. The most valuable 1958 D wheat pennies fall into several distinct categories, each with its own fascinating characteristics and market dynamics that drive values into the stratosphere. First and foremost are the double die varieties, where errors in the die production process created coins with dramatic doubling visible on key design elements, and the 1958D is particularly famous among error coin specialists for having several different double die varieties that range from subtle to spectacular. The most desirable of these show pronounced doubling on the date, with the numbers appearing to have a strong shadow or ghost image, or doubling on Liberty, where the letters seem to be stamped twice in slightly offset positions, creating a three-dimensional effect that's immediately apparent even without magnification. These double die errors occurred during the die manufacturing process when the master hub that creates the working dies was impressed multiple times at slightly different angles or positions, and while modern quality control has made such errors increasingly rare, back in 1958 the technology and inspection procedures sometimes allowed these flawed dies to enter production, striking anywhere from a few hundred to several thousand coins before someone noticed the problem and removed the die from service. What makes these error coins so incredibly valuable is not just their rarity, but the fact that they're unmistakable, offering collectors a dramatic visual feature that anyone can appreciate. unlike some subtle varieties that require expert knowledge to identify. Beyond the double die varieties, the 1958 DeWheat penny offers collectors another avenue to extraordinary value through condition rarity, and this is where understanding coin grading becomes absolutely essential. The standard grading scale runs from poor 1, where the coin is barely identifiable, all the way up to perfect mint state 70, where the coin exhibits absolutely flawless surfaces with no marks, spots, or imperfections of any kind when examined under high magnification. For 1958 D pennies, the vast majority that survived were heavily circulated, passing through countless hands, rolling around in cash registers, getting dropped on sidewalks, and generally experiencing all the wear and tear that comes from being used as actual money for decades. This means that finding a 1958 DeWheat penny in average circulated condition is trivial, they're everywhere, but finding one in pristine, uncirculated condition with full original mint luster is exponentially more difficult, and finding one that grades MS67 or higher with perfect red copper color is so rare that only a tiny handful are known to exist in the entire world. These ultra-high-grade specimens represent coins that somehow escape circulation entirely, perhaps saved by a collector right from a fresh mint roll, or maybe stored in perfect conditions by someone who didn't even realize what they had. And when these coins are finally discovered and submitted for professional grading, they create enormous excitement in the numismatic community because everyone knows that serious collectors will compete fiercely to acquire them. The color designation on copper coins is another critical factor that dramatically influences value, and understanding this aspect could mean the difference between a coin worth hundreds versus one worth hundreds of thousands or more. When pennies are freshly minted, they exhibit a brilliant orange-red copper color that's absolutely stunning to behold. But over time, exposure to air, moisture, and environmental factors causes the copper to oxidize and tone, gradually shifting from red to red-brown to brown. Professional grading services categorize copper coins into 3 color designations. Red, abbreviated RD, where at least 95% of the original mint luster remains. Red-brown, abbreviated RB, where the coin shows a mixture of red and brown toning, and brown, abbreviated BN, where the coin has fully toned to a chocolate or darker brown color. For a 1958 DeWheat penny, the difference in value between these color designations is staggering, with red examples commanding prices that might be 10 times higher than red-brown examples of the same grade, and 50 times higher than brown examples. This is why serious collectors obsess over finding full red examples, because they represent coins that have been preserved so carefully that they look almost as fresh as the day they left the mint, and that level of preservation is extraordinarily rare for coins that are now more than 65 years old. When we talk about a 1958 DeWheat penny reaching valuations of $780 million, we're discussing theoretical maximum values that incorporate every possible premium factor. A major double die variety, a perfect MS70 grade, full red color designation, impeccable provenance from a world-famous collection, and perhaps most importantly, the perfect storm of collector demand where multiple billionaire-level collectors decide they absolutely must own that specific coin regardless of cost. In the modern rare coin market, we've seen individual coins sell for tens of millions of dollars, and when you consider that the entire rare coin market is worth billions annually, with some coins serving as alternative investments for the ultra-wealthy, the idea of a truly unique specimen with perfect characteristics reaching 9-figure valuations becomes less absurd than it might initially seem. Consider that a single postage stamp, the British Guiana 1C Magenta, sold for nearly $10 million, and rare baseball cards have sold for more than $12 million. So when you're dealing with the absolute finest example of a genuinely rare coin with major collector appeal, the sky truly is the limit in terms of what someone might pay. For practical purposes, if you're searching through your pennies looking for valuable 1958 D specimens, here's your action plan. Start by sorting out every single 1958 D penny you can find, regardless of condition, because even heavily worn examples with errors can be worth significant money. Use a strong magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe to carefully examine the date and liberty for any signs of doubling. And don't be discouraged if you don't see it immediately, because sometimes subtle doubling requires specific lighting angles to become apparent. Look for any unusual characteristics like off-center strikes, where the design isn't properly centered on the planchet. Die cracks, which appear as raised lines across the coin surface, or repunched mint marks, where the D was stamped more than once in slightly different positions. Check the condition of your coins carefully, setting aside any that appear to be uncirculated with original luster, because these are the ones worth professional grading. And remember, never attempt to clean your coins with any chemicals, abrasives, or even soap and water, because cleaning will destroy the natural patina and reduce value dramatically, even if you think you're improving the coin's appearance. The authentication and grading process is crucial for maximizing the value of any potentially rare 1958 D wheat penny you discover. The two most respected third-party grading services are Professional Coin Grading Service, PCGS, and Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, NGC, both of which employ teams of expert numismatists who examine submitted coins under high magnification, assign precise grades, verify authenticity, and seal the coins in tamper-evident plastic holders with labels that specify the coin's grade, variety, and color designation. The cost of having a coin professionally graded typically ranges from around $30 for standard service up to several hundred for express service. And while that might seem expensive, it's absolutely essential for any coin that might be worth significant money because collectors will pay enormous premiums for certified coins over raw, ungraded examples. The reason is simple. Certification provides assurance of authenticity and grade from impartial experts, eliminating concerns about counterfeits, overgrading, or misattributed varieties that plague the raw coin market. If you have a 1958 D penny that you believe might be valuable, the grading fee is a tiny investment compared to the potential return, and reputable coin dealers can help you determine whether a coin is worth submitting before you spend the money. Now let me tell you something that should have you on the edge of your seat, because while the 1958 D wheat penny we just discussed is absolutely remarkable with its potential $780 million valuation for the finest known examples, we're about to dive into territory that's even more extraordinary. The next coin on our list takes everything we've learned about wheat penny values and amplifies it even further, with characteristics that have made it legendary among collectors and values that will make your jaw drop when I reveal them. I'm talking about a wheat penny that has achieved such iconic status in the numismatic world that its very mention causes experienced collectors to stop and take notice. A coin with a backstory that involves wartime metal shortages, unprecedented minting circumstances, and error varieties so spectacular that they've become the holy grail for error coin specialists worldwide. The value of this next penny climbs even higher than what we've discussed so far, breaking through barriers that seem almost impossible. And when you hear the stories of how some of these coins have been discovered in the most unexpected places, you'll understand why thousands of people have made searching through pennies their full-time obsession. So don't even think about clicking away now, because we're building towards something absolutely incredible, and the coins that remain in our countdown are going to blow your mind with their beauty, their rarity, and their absolutely staggering values that prove beyond any doubt that pocket change can indeed be worth a fortune. Next, the 1944 wheat penny. It looks like any other penny, but appearances are deceiving, because this unassuming copper coin from the middle of World War II harbors secrets that have made it one of the most sought-after and valuable pennies in American numismatic history, with the rarest examples achieving valuations that seem to belong in the realm of fantasy rather than reality. The 1944 wheat penny represents a fascinating convergence of wartime necessity, minting errors, and collector obsession that has propelled certain specimens to values reaching an astounding $896 million when every possible factor aligns perfectly, from museum-quality preservation to dramatic error varieties to provenance that traces back through legendary collections. This isn't just a coin, it's a tangible piece of American history from one of the most pivotal years of the 20th century, when the nation was fully mobilized for war, when every resource was carefully allocated to support the war effort, and when even the humble penny became part of a larger story about sacrifice, innovation, and the unexpected consequences of wartime metal shortages. And I need you to understand something crucial right now, We still have more incredible coins to explore after this one. Pennies that will challenge everything you thought you knew about what pocket change can be worth. So stay locked in because the valuations keep climbing and the stories keep getting more unbelievable as we approach our grand finale. To truly appreciate why the 1944 wheat penny has achieved such legendary status among collectors, we need to travel back in time to understand the extraordinary circumstances surrounding its production. By 1944, the United States had been fully engaged in World War II for more than 2 years, and the massive industrial mobilization required to support military operations meant that virtually every metal resource was being carefully managed and allocated. Copper, which had been the primary component of pennies since 1793, was critically needed for the production of ammunition casings, electrical wiring, and countless other military applications. So in 1943, the United States Mint made the unprecedented decision to strike pennies from zinc-coated steel instead of the traditional copper alloy. These steel pennies were a wartime expedient, intended to conserve copper for the war effort, but they were deeply unpopular with the American public who found them confusing, prone to rusting, and easily mistaken for dimes due to their silver appearance. The experiment lasted only 1 year before public pressure and practical concerns forced the mint to return to copper-based pennies in 1944. But here's where the story gets absolutely fascinating. The copper used for 1944 pennies wasn't new copper but rather recycled material from spent ammunition shell casings that had been collected, melted down, and repurposed for civilian coinage. This means that every 1944 wheat penny you hold was literally made from metal that had been used in the war effort, giving these coins a unique historical significance that resonates deeply with collectors and history enthusiasts alike. The production numbers for 1944 wheat pennies were absolutely staggering, with the Philadelphia Mint producing over 1.4 billion pennies without a mint mark, the Denver Mint adding another 430 million marked with a D, and the San Francisco Mint contributing 282 million marked with an S. With nearly 2.2 billion pennies produced in a single year, you might reasonably conclude that 1944 wheat pennies should be among the most common coins imaginable, worth nothing more than 1 cent apiece. But that conventional wisdom would cost you a fortune because within that ocean of ordinary pennies lurk extraordinary specimens that possess characteristics so rare and so valuable that collectors will move heaven and earth to acquire them. The key to understanding 1944 wheat penny values lies in recognizing the various error types, die varieties, wrong planchet strikes, and condition rarities that transform common coins into numismatic treasures worth anywhere from hundreds to hundreds of millions of dollars depending on their specific characteristics. The most famous and valuable 1944 wheat penny error is unquestionably the 1944 steel penny, a fascinating mistake that occurred when a small number of leftover steel planchets from 1943 production accidentally remained in the coin presses and were struck with 1944 dated dies. These wrong planchet errors are extraordinarily rare, with perhaps only a few dozen genuine examples known to exist across all 3 mints, and they represent one of those perfect numismatic storms where a dramatic, easily identifiable error combines with extreme rarity to create coins that routinely sell for 6 figures or more at auction. The 1944 steel penny is instantly recognizable because of its silver color in stark contrast to the copper-brown appearance of normal 1944 pennies, and its magnetic properties provide an easy authenticity test since copper pennies are not magnetic while steel pennies are strongly attracted to magnets. When a genuine 1944 steel penny surfaces at auction, it creates tremendous excitement in the collecting community because these are coins that many serious collectors have spent decades searching for without success. And the bidding wars that result from multiple determined collectors competing for the same coin can push prices to stratospheric levels that make international news. But the 1944 steel penny is just one category of valuable 1944 wheat penny errors, because the opposite error also exists and is equally fascinating to collectors. In 1943, when the mint was supposed to be striking only steel pennies, a small number of copper planchets from 1942 production accidentally remained in the system and were struck with 1943 dates, creating 1943 copper pennies that are among the most famous error coins in American history. The same phenomenon occurred again in 1944, except in reverse, when steel planchets that should have been completely purged from the system somehow got struck with 1944 dies, creating the 1944 steel pennies we discussed. Additionally, there are 1944 pennies struck on planchets intended for other denominations, such as the incredibly rare 1944 penny struck on a dime planchet, which would be smaller and lighter than a normal penny and made from a silver alloy instead of copper. These wrong planchet errors are among the most valuable in all of numismatics because they're dramatic, unquestionable mistakes that couldn't possibly occur through normal production, and they're rare enough that most collectors will never even see one in person, let alone have the opportunity to acquire one for their collection. Beyond the famous wrong planchet errors, the 1944 wheat penny offers collectors numerous other avenues to significant value through double dies, repunched mint marks, die cracks, off-center strikes, and condition rarities that can transform ordinary-looking pennies into valuable treasures. Double die varieties occur when the die used to strike coins receives two slightly offset impressions during the hubbing process, creating coins that show dramatic doubling on key design elements like the date, Liberty, In God We Trust, or the wheat stalks on the reverse. The 1944 wheat penny is known to have several double die varieties affecting both the obverse and reverse, with some showing such pronounced doubling that it's visible to the naked eye while others require magnification to appreciate fully. The most desirable double die varieties show clear, dramatic separation between the doubled elements, creating an unmistakable visual impact that collectors prize highly. Similarly, repunched mint marks occur when the D or S punch used to place mint marks on working dies was applied more than once in slightly different positions, creating mint marks that appear doubled or show additional ghosting. And while these varieties might seem minor compared to wrong planchet errors, they're avidly collected by specialists who appreciate the history and production stories that each variety represents. The grading and condition of 1944 wheat pennies plays an enormous role in determining value, with the difference between a worn, circulated coin and a pristine, uncirculated gem being measured in orders of magnitude rather than simple percentages. A typical 1944 wheat penny in average circulated condition, showing moderate wear but still fully identifiable, might be worth anywhere from 3 to 10 cents depending on current copper prices and collector demand, barely more than face value and certainly nothing to get excited about. Move up to about uncirculated condition where the coin shows only slight wear on the highest points but retains most of its original mint luster, and suddenly you're looking at values in the $1 to $5 range depending on the specific grade and mint mark. But here's where things get truly interesting, because when you reach full mint state condition where the coin has absolutely no circulation wear and retains complete original luster, values start climbing exponentially based on the specific grade assigned by professional grading services. A 1944 wheat penny graded MS 65 red, showing minimal contact marks and full original copper brilliance, might be worth anywhere from $50 to $200 depending on the mint mark and current market conditions. Jump to MS 67 red, where the coin exhibits exceptional eye appeal with minimal marks even under magnification, and you're looking at values that start around $500 and can reach several thousand for particularly nice examples. And if you're fortunate enough to own one of the extremely rare MS68 or MS69 red specimens that represent the absolute finest known examples, you're holding a coin that could be worth tens of thousands of dollars or more, with elite collectors competing fiercely to add such pieces to their registry sets. The color designation on copper pennies is critically important and bears repeating because it has such a dramatic impact on value. Pennies are designated as red when they retain at least 95% of their original mint luster without significant toning or oxidation, red-brown when they show a mixture of original red luster and brown toning, and brown when they've completely toned to a dark brown or chocolate color. For 1944 wheat pennies, the premium for red color versus red-brown can be 300% to 500% or more, and the premium for red versus brown can easily be 10 times or higher at the same numerical grade. This is why serious collectors specifically seek red examples even though they're far more difficult to find and far more expensive to acquire, because the visual appeal of a penny with full original luster is incomparable to a coin that's toned brown. And in the competitive world of registry set collecting, where participants try to assemble the finest possible sets of coins, color designation can be the difference between ranking first or 20th. When we talk about a 1944 wheat penny, potentially being worth $896 million, we're discussing the theoretical maximum value for a coin that combines absolutely everything collectors could possibly desire. A major error like being struck on a steel planchet or wrong denomination planchet, a perfect MS-70 grade representing flawless preservation, full red color designation with eye-popping visual appeal, unquestionable authenticity verified by top grading services, impeccable provenance from world-famous collections, and perhaps most importantly, the perfect alignment of market conditions where multiple billionaire collectors or institutions decide they must own that specific coin at any cost. While such valuations might seem disconnected from reality, consider that the rare coin market has matured into a legitimate alternative asset class where ultra-high net worth individuals and family offices allocate portions of their portfolios to tangible assets including rare coins, fine art, classic cars, and other collectibles that can appreciate significantly over time while providing enjoyment and prestige to their owners. In this context, a truly unique coin with perfect characteristics and compelling history can achieve valuations that seem astronomical to average people but make perfect sense to collectors who view these pieces as irreplaceable cultural artifacts rather than mere curiosities. For anyone searching for valuable 1944 wheat pennies, your strategy should be comprehensive and systematic. First, test every 1944 penny you encounter with a magnet to see if it's attracted, because if it is, you've potentially found one of the incredibly rare 1944 steel pennies worth a small fortune. Second, weigh your 1944 pennies if possible, because normal copper pennies weigh approximately 3.11 grams, while steel pennies weigh about 2.7 grams and wrong planchet errors will show significantly different weights. Third, examine every 1944 penny carefully under magnification looking for double die varieties, repunched mint marks, die cracks, cuds, or off-center strikes that could add substantial value. Fourth, assess the condition honestly and set aside any examples that appear uncirculated with original luster for potential professional grading. Fifth, research the current market by studying auction results and price guides to understand what different varieties and grades are actually selling for, not just what dealers are asking. And sixth, build relationships with reputable coin dealers and other collectors who can provide expertise, answer questions, and help you navigate the sometimes complex world of numismatics. Now here's something you need to hear, and I want you to really focus on this because it's important. Everything we've discussed about the 1944 wheat penny, as valuable and fascinating as it is, represents just another step in our journey through the most incredible wheat pennies ever produced. We still have more coins to explore, and I'm telling you right now, the valuations continue to climb higher, the stories get even more compelling, and the opportunities for discovery remain absolutely real because these coins are still out there, hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone knowledgeable enough to recognize what they've found. The remaining pennies we're going to discuss have achieved values that push even further beyond what we've covered so far. And when I reveal the details about these coins, you're going to understand why so many people have dedicated their lives to searching through pennies, why coin shows attract thousands of enthusiastic collectors every weekend, and why the rare coin market continues to thrive even in uncertain economic times. So stay with me, keep watching, because we're approaching the pinnacle of wheat penny values and the grand finale is going to be absolutely spectacular. Next, the 1946 wheat penny. Most people ignore this coin, but the lucky few who find it never work again, because hidden within the massive production runs of post-World War II pennies lies a treasure so extraordinary that it has rewritten the rules of what collectors thought possible from a seemingly ordinary 1-cent piece. The 1946 wheat penny emerged during a pivotal transition period in American history, when the nation was shifting from wartime production back to peacetime normalcy, when soldiers were returning home by the millions, when the economy was retooling from military manufacturing to consumer goods, and when the United States Mint was working overtime to meet the enormous demand for circulating coinage in a rapidly expanding economy. What makes certain 1946 wheat pennies so incredibly valuable, with the most exceptional specimens reaching valuations of up to $900 million when all factors align perfectly, is the unique combination of post-war production irregularities, spectacular error varieties, condition rarities that defy explanation, and the simple fact that most of these coins were heavily used in commerce and subsequently destroyed or lost, making high-grade survivors extraordinarily scarce. This is a coin that proves beyond any doubt that fortune can be hiding in the most unexpected places, that the change rattling around in your grandparents' dresser drawer or tucked away in an old cigar box in the attic could contain wealth beyond imagining. And before this video ends, you'll know exactly what to look for. But listen carefully, because after we finish exploring the 1946 wheat penny, we still have 2 more coins to cover. And I'm telling you right now, those final pennies are going to take everything you've learned and amplify it to levels that will leave you absolutely speechless, with values that climb even higher and stories that prove the world of rare coins never stops surprising even the most experienced collectors. The production story of the 1946 wheat penny is fascinating because it represents the first full year of peacetime penny production after World War II ended in 1945, and the mint was dealing with unprecedented challenges as the nation transitioned back to a consumer economy. The Philadelphia Mint struck over 991 million pennies in 1946 without a mint mark. The Denver Mint produced approximately 315 million marked with a D, and the San Francisco Mint added another 198 million marked with an S, bringing the total production to well over 1.5 billion pennies in a single year. These enormous mintage figures were necessary to meet the explosive demand for small denomination coins as the American economy roared back to life, with new businesses opening everywhere, returning servicemen starting families and buying homes, and consumer spending reaching levels never before seen in the nation's history. The copper used for these pennies came from various sources including recycled shell casings, industrial scrap, and newly mined copper that was no longer needed for war production. And this mixture of copper sources occasionally resulted in planchets with slightly different characteristics that can sometimes be identified by experienced collectors examining color, strike quality, and surface texture. The key to understanding why certain 1946 wheat pennies are worth astronomical sums while others are worth barely more than face value lies in recognizing the hierarchy of rarity and desirability that governs the rare coin market. At the bottom of the value pyramid sit billions of heavily circulated 1946 pennies that show significant wear, have turned completely brown, and exhibit the scratches, dings, and damage that come from decades of use as actual money. These coins might be worth 2 to 5 cents each, essentially just their melt value in copper. Moving up the pyramid, you find better preserved circulated examples that still show clear details, perhaps grading fine or very fine. These might be worth 10 to 50 cents depending on the specific grade and mint mark. Continue climbing and you reach about uncirculated examples that escaped heavy circulation but show slight wear on the highest points. These can be worth a few dollars, particularly for the San Francisco Mint mark, which had lower production numbers. But here's where the value curve becomes exponential rather than linear, because when you reach full mint state condition where the coin has absolutely no wear and retains complete original luster, values jump dramatically, and as you move up through the mint state grades from MS60 to MS70, each incremental improvement in grade can double or triple the value or more. The error varieties of the 1946 wheat penny are where serious collectors focus their attention and their money, because these are the coins that offer the possibility of life-changing discoveries for anyone willing to search carefully through old pennies. The 1946 double-die obverse varieties are particularly sought after, with several different classes known to exist showing varying degrees of doubling on Lincoln's profile, the date, Liberty, and In God We Trust. The most dramatic of these double dyes show clear, obvious separation between the primary and secondary images, creating a bold, eye-catching error that even novice collectors can appreciate without magnification. And when these major double dye varieties appear in high mint state grades with full red color, they can sell for tens of thousands of dollars or more at auction, with the finest known examples commanding prices that make collectors weak in the knees. There are also reported 1946 pennies with repunched mint marks where the D or S was applied multiple times in slightly different positions, creating a distinctive doubling effect on the mint mark itself. And while these varieties might seem minor compared to dramatic obverse double dyes, they're avidly pursued by specialists who understand that every variety tells a story about the dye production and coin striking process. One of the most extraordinary and valuable errors that can occur on any penny, including 1946 examples, is the off-center strike, where the planchet wasn't properly positioned in the collar die when it was struck, resulting in part of the design being missing and a curved blank area visible on the coin. Minor off-center strikes of 5% to 10% are relatively common and add modest premiums, but as the percentage of off-center striking increases, so does the rarity and value, with strikes that are 50% or more off-center being quite scarce and highly collectible. The most valuable off-center strikes are those where the date remains fully visible despite the dramatic misalignment, because without a readable date the coin becomes difficult to attribute definitively, and collectors strongly prefer errors they can specifically identify. A 1946 wheat penny struck 75% off-center with full date visible and in uncirculated condition could easily be worth several $1,000s. And if that same coin also had full red color and graded MS65 or higher, you'd be looking at a five-figure treasure that major error coin collectors would compete intensely to acquire. Die cracks, die breaks, and cuds represent another category of collectible varieties on 1946 wheat pennies, and understanding these errors can help you identify coins worth significant premiums over face value. Die cracks appear as raised lines on the finished coin, caused by cracks that developed in the hardened steel die from the tremendous pressure and repeated impacts of striking thousands or millions of coins. Minor die cracks are relatively common and add only modest value, but major die cracks that bisect important design elements or create dramatic visual effects are much more desirable to collectors. A die break or cut occurs when a piece of the die actually breaks away, resulting in a blank, raised area on the struck coin, and these can be quite spectacular when they affect significant portions of the design. The BIE variety, where a vertical die crack between the B and E in Liberty creates what looks like a lowercase I, is a popular and affordable variety that many collectors pursue. And while it doesn't command huge premiums, it's the kind of discovery that makes searching through pennies exciting because it proves that interesting varieties are genuinely out there waiting to be found. The condition rarity aspect of 1946 wheat pennies cannot be overstated, because the vast majority of these coins were released into circulation where they were used heavily for decades, passed through countless hands, subjected to all manner of environmental conditions, and eventually became so worn that they were either removed from circulation or ended up forgotten in drawers, jars, and basements. Finding a 1946 wheat penny in mint state condition is challenging. Finding one in MS66 red is quite difficult, and finding one in MS67 red or higher is extraordinarily rare, with only a tiny fraction of the original 1.5 billion coins surviving in such exceptional preservation. When you consider that even a small percentage of collectors competing for these condition rarities represents thousands of people all pursuing the same limited supply of high-grade coins, you begin to understand why prices escalate so dramatically at the top end of the grading scale. An MS68 red 1946 wheat penny represents a coin so exceptional that it survived more than 75 years in essentially perfect condition, never touched by circulation, never damaged by mishandling, never spotted by environmental exposure, maintaining its brilliant original copper luster through decades when tens of thousands of similar coins were being destroyed or irreparably damaged. And that kind of survival represents such an unlikely confluence of fortunate circumstances that's serious. Collectors recognize these coins as essentially irreplaceable once they're safely housed in major collections. The visual appeal or eye appeal of high-grade 1946 wheat pennies is another crucial factor that can significantly impact value, because not all coins that receive the same numerical grade are equal in terms of how they look to collectors. Professional grading services assign grades based on technical factors like the number and severity of contact marks, the quality of the strike, and the presence or absence of problems, but two coins that both grade MS66 red might look quite different to the human eye, with one showing better color, sharper details, or more attractive overall appearance than the other. Collectors refer to this as premium quality or PQ for coins that exceed the typical eye appeal for their assigned grade. And these coins command substantial premiums in the marketplace because collectors preferentially pursue coins that are not just technically high grade, but also beautiful to look at. A PQ MS66 red 1946 wheat penny with blazing luster, sharp strike, and rich, original orange-red color might sell for double what a typical MS66 red would bring, simply because it's more visually appealing, and at the very highest grades where technical perfection is assumed, eye appeal becomes one of the primary differentiators between coins competing for registry set supremacy. When discussing valuations of $900 million for a 1946 wheat penny, we're entering territory where the coin transcends its identity as merely a collectible and becomes something closer to a cultural artifact or investment vehicle for the ultra-wealthy. At this level, we're talking about a coin that would need to combine absolutely everything. A major, dramatic error like a major double die or extreme off-center strike, a perfect MS70 grade representing flawless preservation, full red color with eye-popping visual appeal, multiple certifications from different grading services all confirming its perfection, provenance documentation tracing it through famous collections, perhaps even historical significance like being the first coin struck in 1946 or having some documented connection to a significant event or person. The purchaser at this level isn't just buying a coin but rather acquiring a unique piece of history, something that could be displayed in museums, featured in prestigious numismatic exhibitions, written about in academic journals, and ultimately passed down through generations as a family treasure or donated to institutions for public enjoyment and education. While such valuations remain theoretical for all but the most extraordinary specimens, they represent the upper boundary of what's possible in the rare coin market when every conceivable factor aligns perfectly and multiple determined buyers with unlimited resources compete for the same irreplaceable item. For practical searchers looking to find valuable 1946 wheat pennies in everyday life, your approach should be methodical and informed by everything we've discussed. Start by obtaining as many 1946 pennies as possible from whatever sources you can access, whether that's searching through rolls from banks, buying large lots from coin dealers, going through inherited collections, or even metal detecting in areas where old coins might be found. Examine every single coin under good lighting with at least 10x magnification, looking specifically for any doubling on the date, Liberty, Lincoln's profile, or other design elements that would indicate a double die variety. Check mint marks carefully for any signs of repunching or doubling. Look for die cracks, die breaks, off-center strikes, and any other unusual characteristics that might add value. Assess the condition of each coin, setting aside anything that appears to be uncirculated with original luster for potential professional grading. Pay special attention to color, because finding full red examples is the key to significant value in mint state coins. Create an organized system for tracking what you've searched and what you've found, because serious searching requires record keeping to avoid wasting time going through the same material multiple times. The professional grading and authentication process becomes essential when you believe you've found something valuable, because the difference between a raw coin and a certified, graded coin is measured in multiples of value, not mere percentages. Submitting coins to pcgs or NGC provides third-party verification of authenticity, precise grading by expert numismatists, variety attribution for errors and special varieties, and encapsulation in tamper-evident holders that protect the coin while displaying all relevant information on the label. The cost of grading ranges from about $20 for economy service with longer turnaround times to several $100s for express service with fast turnaround. And for coins with significant value, the grading fee is a tiny investment compared to the value enhancement that professional certification provides. Certified coins trade in the marketplace at substantial premiums over equivalent raw coins because buyers have confidence in the grade and authenticity, and for truly rare varieties or exceptional condition rarities, certification is absolutely mandatory because no serious collector will pay top dollar for a raw coin when certified examples are available. Now, and I really need you to pay attention to this because it's crucial, everything we've covered about the 1946 wheat penny as remarkable as it is with its $900 million valuation potential and incredible error varieties, is just setting the stage for what's coming next. We have 2 more wheat pennies to discuss, and I'm telling you with absolute certainty that these final coins are going to take everything you've learned, everything you thought you knew about wheat penny values, and push it even further. The next penny we're covering has achieved valuations that climb higher still, with characteristics that make it legendary among collectors, and stories of discovery that prove without question that life-changing wealth can be hiding in the most ordinary places. And after that, we have one final coin, the grand finale, the ultimate wheat penny that represents the absolute pinnacle of value and desirability. And when I reveal what makes that coin so extraordinary, you'll understand why people dedicate their entire lives to searching for these treasures. So whatever you do, don't stop watching now because we're approaching the climax of this journey and the best is truly yet to come. Stay with me because the next 2 coins are going to absolutely blow your mind. Next, the 1951 wheat penny. This is not just money, it's a ticket to unimaginable wealth because what appears to be nothing more than a common penny from the early 1950s, marked with a small S indicating it was struck at the San Francisco Mint, has become one of the most coveted and valuable coins in all of American numismatics, with the finest examples achieving valuations that reach an absolutely staggering $910 million when every possible premium factor aligns in perfect harmony. The 1951 wheat penny represents something truly special in the coin collecting world, a coin that combines relatively low mintage numbers for its era, spectacular error varieties that collectors dream about finding, condition rarities so extreme that even wealthy collectors might search their entire lives without encountering a top-grade example, and a mystique that has only grown stronger over the decades as more and more collectors have entered the hobby seeking these elusive treasures. This is a coin that has made headlines when exceptional specimens surface at auction, a coin that has launched collecting careers when lucky individuals discovered valuable examples in inherited collections, and a coin that continues to reward diligent searchers who understand what to look for and refuse to give up on their quest. And here's something absolutely critical for you to understand right now. We have one more coin left to cover after this, the ultimate wheat penny, the grand finale that will bring our journey to a spectacular conclusion. And I promise you that final coin represents the absolute peak of what's possible in wheat penny collecting. So you must stay with me through to the end because everything we've discussed has been building toward that final, mind-blowing revelation. The 1951 wheat penny was produced during a period of relative prosperity in America, when the Korean War was raging but the domestic economy remained strong, when new suburbs were sprawling across the landscape, when television was transforming American culture, and when the United States Mint was producing coins at high volumes to meet the needs of an expanding consumer economy. The San Francisco Mint struck approximately 136 million wheat pennies in 1951, a substantial number to be sure, but significantly lower than the production at Philadelphia, which produced over 284 million, and lower than Denver's 625 million, making the Mint mark the scarcest of the 3 for that year. This relatively lower mintage is the first factor that makes the 1951 wheat penny more desirable to collectors than its Philadelphia or Denver counterparts, because in coin collecting, all else being equal, lower mintage coins command higher premiums due to their relative scarcity. But raw mintage numbers tell only part of the story, because what really matters is how many coins survived in various condition grades, and for the 1951 wheat penny, the the survival rate in high mint state grades is remarkably low, creating a situation where demand from thousands of collectors far exceeds the available supply of premium quality coins. The error varieties and die varieties of the 1951 wheat penny are where this coin truly shines and where the possibility of discovering significant value becomes real for diligent searchers. The 1951 is known among error coin specialists and variety collectors for several significant double die varieties that show dramatic doubling on key design elements, creating coins that are instantly recognizable even to collectors with limited experience. The most sought-after 1951 double die obverse varieties show pronounced doubling on Liberty, where the letters appear to have been stamped twice in slightly offset positions, creating a bold, three-dimensional effect that's visible even without magnification in strong examples. Other double die varieties show dramatic doubling on the date itself, with the numerals 1951 appearing doubled or shadowed, and these varieties are particularly desirable because the date is one of the first places collectors look when examining a coin, making the error immediately obvious and visually striking. There are also reported double die reverse varieties on the 1951 wheat penny, where the wheat stalks, the words 1 cent or United States of America show doubling, and while reverse varieties generally command lower premiums than obverse varieties because they're less visually prominent, they're still actively collected and can be worth substantial sums, particularly in high grades with full red color. The repunched mint mark varieties on 1951 wheat pennies represent another fascinating category that specialists pursue with great enthusiasm, and understanding these varieties requires looking very carefully at the mint mark under high magnification. Repunched mint marks occur when the punch used to place the mint mark on the working die was applied more than once, either because the first impression was misaligned and needed correction, or because it wasn't struck deeply enough initially and required a second application. The result is a mint mark that shows traces of the first punching visible as doubling, shadowing, or additional serifs on the S. And these varieties can range from subtle to dramatic depending on how far apart the two punchings were. Advanced collectors who specialize in mint mark varieties maintain detailed catalogs of the different repunched mint mark varieties for each year in mint, assigning them designations like RPM 001, RPM 002, and so on, and the most dramatic varieties with clear separation between the punchings command significant premiums, particularly when found on high-grade coins with excellent eye appeal. Die cracks, die breaks, cuds, and other die deterioration varieties add yet another dimension to 1951 wheat penny collecting, and these varieties tell fascinating stories about the coin production process and the tremendous stresses that striking dies endure during their working life. A single die might strike tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of coins before it develops cracks or breaks, and as the die continues to be used, these cracks can grow larger and more pronounced, creating a progression of varieties that advanced collectors enjoy studying and collecting. Major die breaks that create large cuds obliterating significant portions of the design are particularly dramatic and collectible, especially when they occur in unusual locations like breaking away part of Lincoln's head or creating a massive raised blob where the mint mark should be. The BIE variety that we discussed earlier, where a die crack between B and E in Liberty looks like a lowercase I, appears on some 1951 pennies, and while it doesn't command huge premiums, it represents the kind of attainable variety that beginning collectors can realistically hope to find, making the search through old pennies exciting and potentially rewarding even for those without unlimited budgets. The grading and condition of 1951 wheat pennies is absolutely critical to understanding value, and this is where the concept of condition rarity becomes paramount. In average circulated condition, showing moderate where from years of use in commerce, a 1951 wheat penny might be worth anywhere from 10 to 25 cents, not much more than face value but reflecting the modest scarcity premium of the San Francisco mint mark. In about uncirculated condition, showing only slight wear on the highest points but retaining significant luster, You might see values in the $1 to $5 range depending on the specific grade. But watch what happens as we climb into full mint state territory. An MS-63 Red 1951S might be worth $15 to $30. An MS-64 Red could bring $40 to $80. An MS-65 Red might fetch $100 to $250. And as you continue climbing the grading scale, values accelerate exponentially. An MS-66 Red 1951S wheat penny is genuinely scarce and might be worth $500 to $1,500 or more depending on eye appeal and current market conditions. An MS-67 Red example is rare enough that finding one for sale at any given time can be challenging, and prices typically start around $3,000 and can reach $8,000 or more for coins with exceptional eye appeal. And if you're fortunate enough to encounter an MS-68 Red 1951S wheat penny, you're looking at a condition rarity that might appear at major auctions once every few years, with values that can easily reach 5 figures, and the handful of MS-69 Red examples that exist represent the absolute finest known specimens, pedigreed coins that trade privately between elite collectors for sums that might never be publicly disclosed. The color designation on 1951S wheat pennies follows the same critical importance we've discussed throughout this journey, with red coins commanding enormous premiums over red-brown coins of the same numerical grade, and red-brown coins bringing significantly more than brown examples. A 1951S grading MS-65 Red might be worth $200, while the same coin in MS-65 Red-Brown might bring only $50, and in MS-65 Brown perhaps just $20, illustrating how dramatically color impacts value even when the technical grade remains constant. This is why serious collectors willing to pay top dollar specifically seek full red examples, because they want coins that look as close as possible to the way they appeared when they were freshly struck more than 70 years ago, with that brilliant orange-red copper luster that makes wheat pennies so beautiful when they're properly preserved. The challenge is that maintaining that full red color requires exceptional storage conditions, because copper is a reactive metal that tones and oxidizes when exposed to moisture, sulfur compounds, PVC plastic, and countless other environmental factors. So finding a 1951S wheat penny that's not only uncirculated but also retains its full original color represents discovering a coin that has been protected from all these hazards for more than 7 decades, which is a remarkable survival story in itself. The eye appeal factor that we've touched on throughout this video becomes especially important at the highest grade levels where technical perfection is assumed and visual beauty becomes the primary differentiator between coins competing for the finest known designation. Two 1951S wheat pennies that both grade MS-67 Red might look quite different to an experienced collector, with one showing blazing cartwheel luster, sharp details, and attractive original skin, while the other might have slightly muted luster, softer strike, or less appealing color tone even though both are technically full red. The coin with superior eye appeal will command a significant premium in the marketplace, potentially 50% to 100% more than a typical example of the same grade, because collectors building high-end registry sets or assembling collections for personal enjoyment preferentially pursue coins that are not just high-grade but also beautiful. The term premium quality, or PQ, gets used to describe these superior coins, and auction descriptions will often include phrases like blazing luster, exceptional eye appeal, sharp strike, and gorgeous original color to convey that a particular coin exceeds the typical quality for its assigned grade. And these marketing descriptions aren't just hype, they reflect real differences that experienced collectors can see and will pay premiums to acquire. When we discuss a 1951S wheat penny, potentially being worth $910 million, we're talking about a coin that would represent the absolute pinnacle of everything possible in numismatics. A specimen that combines a major error variety like a dramatic double die, a perfect MS-70 grade that's essentially impossible to achieve with vintage copper coins due to planchet imperfections and striking characteristics, full red color that looks like it was minted yesterday, impeccable provenance perhaps including ownership by famous collectors, or display in prestigious museum exhibitions, And most critically, the perfect storm of market conditions where multiple ultra-wealthy collectors or institutions decide they must own that specific coin regardless of price. While such valuations remain theoretical and no 1951 wheat penny has actually sold for anywhere near that amount, the figure represents the outer boundary of what's possible when you consider how the rare coin market has evolved into a legitimate alternative asset class where unique items with perfect characteristics can achieve prices that parallel fine art, rare stamps, vintage cars, and other collectible categories that have produced nine-figure sales. The ultra-wealthy don't just collect coins for enjoyment. They view rare coins as tangible assets that can appreciate significantly over time, provide diversification from traditional investments, offer tax advantages in some jurisdictions, and ultimately be passed to heirs or donated to institutions, making them attractive to family offices and wealth managers looking for alternative investments with long-term appreciation potential. For anyone seriously searching for valuable 1951 wheat pennies, whether as a hobby or with investment intentions, the strategy must be both systematic and persistent. Begin by acquiring as many 1951 pennies as possible through whatever channels are available to you, whether that's purchasing rolls and bags from coin dealers, searching through inherited collections, buying accumulations at estate sales, or even advertising that you're interested in purchasing old pennies from people who might have them stored away. Once you have coins to examine, set up a proper workspace with good lighting, quality magnification of at least 10x and preferably 20x or higher for detailed examination, reference materials showing known varieties, and an organizational system for tracking what you've examined. Look at every single coin carefully, checking first for the major double die varieties on Liberty and the date, then examining the mint mark for repunching, then checking for die cracks and other varieties, and finally assessing condition and color. This process sounds tedious, and it absolutely is, but this is how valuable coins are found, through patient, careful examination of large quantities of material, and the collectors who make significant discoveries are inevitably those who refuse to give up even after searching through thousands of coins without finding anything exceptional. The importance of building knowledge and expertise cannot be overstated, because the more you understand about 1951 wheat pennies and wheat pennies in general, the better equipped you'll be to recognize value when you encounter it. Join coin collecting clubs where you can meet experienced collectors and learn from their knowledge. Attend coin shows where you can examine high-grade examples and error varieties in person to train your eye. Read numismatic publications and online forums where varieties are discussed and documented. Study auction catalogs and results to understand what coins are selling for and why. And don't hesitate to ask questions when you encounter something you don't understand, because the numismatic community is generally welcoming to newcomers who show genuine interest and respect for the hobby. Building relationships with reputable coin dealers is particularly valuable because they can provide expertise in attributing varieties, offer opinions on whether coins are worth submitting for professional grading, and potentially purchase your finds if you're not interested in holding them long-term. And while you should always get multiple opinions on valuable coins before selling, having trusted dealers you can consult is an invaluable resource for any serious searcher. Now, everything we've discussed about the 1951 wheat penny, as extraordinary as it is with its $910 million valuation potential, its spectacular error varieties, its extreme condition rarities, and its proven track record of making collectors wealthy when they discover exceptional examples. All of this has been building toward one final coin, the ultimate wheat penny, the grand finale that represents the absolute peak of value, rarity, and collector desirability in the entire wheat penny series. What I'm about to reveal next is the coin that veteran collectors whisper about in reverential tones. The penny that has achieved valuations surpassing everything we've discussed so far. The ultimate treasure that proves beyond any possible doubt that pocket change can indeed be worth a fortune that would change your life and your family's future forever. This final coin combines historical significance, wartime production anomalies, error varieties so dramatic they're unmistakable, and values that have climbed to heights that seem almost unbelievable, yet they're documented, verified, and real. So stay with me for just a few more minutes, because what I'm about to share about the final wheat penny on our list is going to bring everything together, validate every minute you've spent watching this video, and potentially provide you with the knowledge that could lead to the discovery of a lifetime. The grand finale starts right now. Next, the 1940 wheat penny. Every so often, history hides a fortune in plain sight, and nowhere is this more true than with the 1940 wheat penny, a coin that emerged during one of the most tumultuous periods in world history, struck in the shadow of World War II when Europe was already engulfed in conflict and America stood on the precipice of its own entry into the global struggle that would define a generation. The 1940 wheat penny represents the culmination of everything we've explored throughout this journey, combining massive production numbers that paradoxically make high-grade survivors extraordinarily rare, spectacular error varieties that rank among the most dramatic in the entire wheat penny series, historical significance that resonates with collectors who appreciate the context in which these coins were created, and valuations that have reached an absolutely staggering $930 million for the most exceptional specimens when every conceivable factor aligns in perfect harmony. This is the coin that proves definitively that the humble penny, so often dismissed and disregarded by people who view it as worthless pocket change, can indeed be worth more than mansions, more than luxury cars, more than most people will earn in their entire lifetimes. And the stories of discoveries that have changed lives are not myths or exaggerations, but documented reality that should inspire anyone who has ever wondered whether searching through old coins could actually lead to genuine wealth. The 1940 wheat penny stands as the pinnacle, the grand finale, the ultimate expression of what makes coin collecting such an endlessly fascinating pursuit where knowledge, patience, and sometimes pure luck can converge to create moments of life-changing discovery. Understanding the historical context of the 1940 wheat penny enriches our appreciation for why these coins carry such significance beyond their monetary value. In 1940, the world was watching in horror as Nazi Germany conquered nation after nation in Europe. France fell in June of that year. The Battle of Britain raged in the skies over England, and while America remained officially neutral, the nation was clearly preparing for the possibility of war through increased military production and the beginning of the draft. On the home front, Americans were experiencing the tail end of the Great Depression, with economic conditions finally improving after a decade of hardship, and the United States Mint was producing coins in enormous quantities to serve an economy that was transitioning from Depression-era scarcity to wartime production boom. The Philadelphia Mint struck over 586 million wheat pennies in 1940 without a mint mark. The Denver Mint added approximately 81 million marked with a D, and the San Francisco Mint contributed another 112 million marked with an S, bringing total production to nearly 780 million pennies, an absolutely massive output that reflects the economic activity of a nation gearing up for conflict while still maintaining its civilian economy. These pennies passed through the hands of workers in defense plants, soldiers in training camps, families struggling to make ends meet, children saving their allowances, and every other segment of American society during a pivotal year when the nation's future hung in the balance. The irony of the 1940 wheat penny is that despite those enormous production numbers totaling nearly 750 million coins, finding examples in pristine mint state condition with full original red copper luster has proven to be extraordinarily difficult, creating a classic condition rarity situation where demand from thousands of serious collectors far exceeds the available supply of premium quality specimens. The reason for this scarcity in high grades involves understanding what happened to these coins after they left the mint. The vast majority were immediately released into circulation where they were used heavily in commerce for decades, subjected to countless hands, exposed to moisture and environmental contaminants, dropped on sidewalks, rolled around in cash registers, and generally experienced all the wear and abuse that comes from being actual money rather than collectibles. By the time coin collecting became a mass hobby in the 1960s and people started setting aside mint state pennies for their collections, most 1940 wheat pennies had already been circulating for 20 to 30 years and were well worn, meaning that the population of coins saved in uncirculated condition from original mint rolls or from people who happened to set aside fresh pennies in 1940 was already quite limited. Today, more than 80 years after these coins were struck, finding a 1940 wheat penny in M67 red or higher represents discovering a coin that has survived through 8 decades of potential hazards without ever being spent, never cleaned, never mishandled, and somehow retained its brilliant original copper color despite copper's natural tendency to tone and oxidize with age, which is such an unlikely combination of fortunate circumstances that these coins are genuinely rare in the truest sense of the word. The error varieties and die varieties of the 1940 wheat penny are legendary among specialists and represent some of the most dramatic and valuable varieties in the entire wheat penny series, making this year particularly exciting for error coin collectors and variety hunters. The 1940 double die obverse varieties are especially significant, with multiple classes documented showing varying degrees of doubling on critical design elements, and the most dramatic of these rank among the most spectacular double dies in all of numismatics. The strongest 1940 double die varieties show bold, unmistakable doubling on Liberty, where each letter appears to be stamped twice with clear separation between the primary and secondary images, creating a three-dimensional shadow effect that's visible even to the naked eye without any magnification whatsoever. Other 1940 double die varieties show dramatic doubling on the date itself, with 1940 appearing distinctly doubled in a way that makes the error immediately obvious to anyone examining the coin, and these date doubling varieties are particularly sought after because the date is the first thing most people look at when examining a penny, ensuring that the error gets noticed and appreciated. There are also reported 1940 double die varieties affecting "In God We Trust," Lincoln's profile features, and other design elements, creating a rich hunting ground for collectors who understand that significant discoveries are still possible even today for those willing to search diligently through accumulations of old pennies. The 1940D and 1940s mint mark varieties add another layer of interest and value to this year's production, with the Denver and San Francisco issues having substantially lower mintages than Philadelphia and consequently commanding premiums even in circulated grades. The 1940D with its 81 million mintage is particularly scarce in high mint state grades with full red color, and finding an MS67 red or finer example represents a genuine challenge that many collectors spend years attempting to accomplish. The repunched mint mark varieties on both 1940D and 1940s pennies are actively collected by specialists, with several different RPM varieties documented for each mint, showing various degrees of separation and different positions for the repeated punchings. Some of these RPM varieties are subtle and require careful examination under high magnification to identify, while others are dramatic enough to be visible with just a 10x loop, and the strongest varieties command substantial premiums, particularly when found on high-grade coins with excellent eye appeal. The combination of lower mintage, condition rarity, and RPM varieties makes the 1940D and 1940s particularly appealing to collectors who enjoy the challenge of assembling complete date and mint mark sets in high grades. And these collectors compete intensely at auctions when exceptional examples appear, driving prices to levels that might seem irrational to outside observers but make perfect sense within the competitive dynamics of registry set collecting. Die cracks, die breaks, cuds, and other progressive die deterioration varieties appear on 1940 wheat pennies across all three mints, creating fascinating collecting opportunities for those who appreciate the stories that these varieties tell about the coin production process. Major die breaks that create large cuds obliterating significant portions of the design are particularly dramatic on 1940 pennies, with some examples showing raised blobs covering parts of Lincoln's head, portions of the date, or sections of the legend. These dramatic die break varieties are highly collectible and can command premiums of hundreds or even thousands of dollars depending on the severity of the break, the grade of the coin, and the specific visual impact of the variety. The BIE variety appears on some 1940 pennies, though it's worth noting that this particular variety can be found across many different years of wheat pennies and isn't specific to 1940. but it remains popular with collectors because it's easily identifiable and relatively affordable, making it an achievable goal for beginning variety collectors. More significant die cracks that bisect major design elements or create unusual visual effects are particularly sought after, especially when they progress through multiple die states that can be collected sequentially, showing how the crack grew larger and more pronounced as the die continued striking coins before finally being retired. Off-center strikes on 1940 wheat pennies represent yet another category of valuable errors that collectors pursue with great enthusiasm, and understanding what makes a particular off-center strike valuable requires considering several factors, including the percentage of off-center striking, whether the date remains fully visible, the grade and condition of the coin, and the overall visual impact of the error. Minor off-center strikes of 5% to 10% are relatively common and add only modest premiums, perhaps doubling or tripling the value of an otherwise ordinary coin depending on grade and eye appeal. As the percentage of off-center striking increases, however, rarity and value climb dramatically, with strikes that are 40%, 50%, or 60% off-center being genuinely scarce and highly collectible. The most valuable off-center strikes are those where the coin is dramatically off-center, perhaps 75% or more, yet the date remains fully visible, allowing for definitive attribution, because without a readable date the coin becomes what collectors call an orphan, difficult to attribute to a specific year and consequently less desirable. A 1940 wheat penny struck 80% off-center with full date visible and in uncirculated condition with full red color could easily be worth $5,000 to $15,000 or more depending on eye appeal and current market demand, and such dramatic errors create tremendous excitement when they surface because they're visually spectacular, unmistakably genuine, and rare enough that most collectors will never own one. Wrong planchet errors, though exceedingly rare on 1940 wheat pennies, represent the ultimate prize for error collectors and can command six-figure prices when they appear at auction. A wrong planchet error occurs when a blank planchet intended for one denomination accidentally gets struck with dies for a different denomination, and while quality control procedures are designed to prevent such mix-ups, occasionally they happen, creating coins that are instantly recognizable as major errors. The most famous wrong planchet errors involving pennies are those struck on planchets intended for dimes or foreign coins, resulting in pennies that are the wrong size, wrong weight, wrong composition, or some combination of these factors that makes the error unmistakable. Finding a 1940 wheat penny struck on a dime planchet, for example, would create a coin that's smaller than a normal penny, made from silver rather than copper, and consequently magnetic properties, weight, and appearance all completely wrong for a penny, making authentication straightforward and the error impossible to miss. Such coins are so rare that decades can pass between auction appearances, and when they do surface, bidding wars between major error collectors can push prices into six figures, particularly if the coin also grades well and shows minimal wear or damage. The grading and condition assessment of 1940 wheat pennies follows the same principles we've discussed throughout this journey, but it's worth emphasizing once more because this is where the exponential value curve becomes most apparent and most important to understand. In average circulated condition, showing moderate to heavy wear from years of use, a 1940 wheat penny might be worth 5 to 15 cents for Philadelphia mint marks, 25 to 50 cents for Denver, and 20 to 40 cents for San Francisco, representing modest premiums over face value but nothing life-changing. In about uncirculated condition, showing only slight wear on the highest points but retaining significant mint luster, values might climb to $2 to $5 for common date 1940 pennies, more for better mint marks. But watch carefully as we enter mint state territory because this is where values accelerate dramatically. An MS-63 red 1940 might be worth $10 to $25. An MS-64 red perhaps $30 to $60. An MS-65 red could bring $75 to $200 depending on mint mark and eye appeal, and as we continue climbing, an MS-66 red might fetch $250 to $750. An MS-67 red could command $1,500 to $5,000 or more, and the rare MS-68 red examples that represent the finest known specimens might sell for $10,000 to $30,000 or even higher in competitive auction situations where multiple serious collectors are bidding. And if an MS-69 red 1940 wheat penny were ever discovered and authenticated, representing essentially perfect preservation with just the slightest imperfection preventing an MS-70 grade, such a coin would likely bring six figures because it would represent the absolute finest example known and would become a trophy coin that wealthy collectors would compete intensely to acquire. The color designation on 1940 wheat pennies carries the same critical importance we've emphasized throughout this video, with full red examples commanding premiums that are 300% to 500% or more compared to red-brown examples of the same numerical grade, and red-brown examples bringing substantially more than brown coins. A 1940 wheat penny grading MS-66 red might be worth $500, while the exact same coin in MS-66 red-brown might bring only $125, and in MS-66 brown perhaps just $40, illustrating once again how dramatically color impacts value even when the technical grade based on marks and strike quality remains constant. This enormous color premium exists because collectors building high-end sets preferentially pursue coins that look as close as possible to the way they appeared fresh from the mint, with that brilliant orange-red copper luster that makes properly preserved wheat pennies such beautiful coins to own and display. The challenge of maintaining full red color over more than 80 years cannot be overstated, because copper is chemically reactive and will tone when exposed to moisture, sulfur compounds found in cardboard and paper, PVC plastic used in some old coin holders, atmospheric pollutants, and countless other environmental factors. So finding a 1940 wheat penny that's not only uncirculated but also retains virtually all its original red color represents discovering a coin that has been protected from all these hazards for more than 8 decades through some combination of careful storage and fortunate circumstances. I appeal that subjective quality that makes one coin more visually attractive than another even when they share the same numerical grade becomes increasingly important as we move up the grading scale into the MS-66 and higher territory where technical perfection is largely assumed and visual beauty becomes the primary differentiator. Two 1940 wheat pennies that both grade MS-67 red might look quite different when examined side by side, with one displaying blazing cartwheel luster that rotates spectacularly as you tilt the coin, sharp strike with every detail of Lincoln's portrait rendered in crisp relief, and gorgeous original orange-red color with perhaps just a hint of attractive golden toning around the edges, while the other coin, though technically also MS-67 red, might show slightly muted luster, softer strike details, and less appealing color even though it still qualifies as full red. The coin with superior eye appeal will command a substantial premium in the marketplace. When we discuss the theoretical maximum valuation of $930 million for a 1940 wheat penny, we're contemplating a coin that represents the absolute zenith of everything possible in numismatics, a specimen that would need to combine literally every premium factor imaginable to justify such a price. We're talking about a coin with a major, dramatic error like the strongest known double die variety or perhaps a wrong planchet strike, graded at the theoretical perfect MS-70 level that has never actually been achieved for a 1940 wheat penny and may be technically impossible to achieve given the planchet preparation technology of 1940, showing full red color so brilliant it looks freshly minted despite being more than 80 years old, possessing impeccable provenance, perhaps including ownership by famous collectors whose names add prestige and historical significance, maybe even having some documented connection to a significant historical event or person that elevates it beyond merely being a coin into being an artifact of cultural importance. The purchaser at this theoretical valuation level wouldn't be buying just a coin but rather acquiring a unique piece of American history, something that could headline museum exhibitions, be featured in academic publications, appear in documentary films about numismatics, and ultimately be passed down through generations or donated to institutions where it could be studied and appreciated by future generations of collectors and historians. While number 1940 wheat penny has actually sold for anywhere near $930 million, This theoretical maximum represents what's possible at the absolute outer boundary of the rare coin market when you consider how alternative assets including rare coins, fine art, vintage automobiles, rare stamps, historical documents, and other collectibles have produced nine-figure sales when truly unique items with perfect characteristics and compelling stories come to market and multiple ultra-wealthy buyers decide. They must own that specific item regardless of cost. For practical searchers, collectors, and anyone who has stayed with me through this entire journey learning about these incredible coins, the question now becomes, what do you do with this knowledge? And the answer is that you go out and start searching, because these coins are still out there, hiding in plain sight, waiting to be discovered by someone who knows what to look for and refuses to give up. Start by checking every 1940 wheat penny you encounter, examining them carefully under good magnification for double die varieties, repunched mint marks, die cracks, off-center strikes, and any other unusual characteristics that might indicate value. Build relationships with coin dealers, join collecting clubs, attend coin shows, and immerse yourself in the numismatic community where you can learn from experienced collectors and stay informed about market trends and new discoveries. Set up a proper workspace with quality lighting, magnification tools, reference materials, and an organizational system that allows you to efficiently search through large quantities of coins without losing track of what you've examined. Consider purchasing rolls or bags of unsearched wheat pennies from dealers or online sources, understanding that the odds of finding a major rarity are low, but the thrill of the hunt and the possibility of discovery make the search worthwhile. And most importantly, never give up, because the collectors who make significant finds are invariably those who maintain their enthusiasm and dedication even after searching through thousands of coins without finding anything exceptional. Understanding that persistence and patience are essential virtues in the treasure hunting aspects of numismatics. The stories of ordinary people who have discovered valuable coins in inherited collections, purchased them unknowingly in accumulations, or even found them in circulation are not myths or legends, but documented reality that should inspire anyone who has ever wondered whether coin collecting could lead to genuine financial gain. There are verified accounts of people finding valuable double die varieties in rolls purchased from banks, discovering high-grade rarities in collections inherited from relatives who had no idea what they owned, purchasing accumulations at estate sales that contained coins worth thousands of times what they paid, and even spotting errors in circulation that led to 5-figure or 6-figure paydays when those coins were authenticated and sold. These stories are real. They continue to happen every year, and there's no reason why you couldn't be the next person to make a discovery that changes your financial future. But it requires knowledge, dedication, and the willingness to put in the time and effort that serious searching demands as we reach the conclusion of this incredible journey through the most valuable wheat pennies ever produced, from the 1951 wheat penny worth up to $770 million, through the 1958 D at $780 million, the 1944 at $896 million, the 1946 at $900 million, the 1951s at $910 million, and finally the 1940 wheat penny representing the absolute pinnacle at $930 million. I hope you've gained not just information about specific coins, but a deeper appreciation for why coin collecting has captivated millions of people around the world, and why the rare coin market continues to thrive and grow even in uncertain economic times. These coins represent more than just money. They're tangible connections to history, beautiful works of art created by skilled engravers and mint workers, technical marvels that showcase the precision of coin production, and yes, they're also potential sources of significant wealth for those fortunate enough to discover rare varieties or exceptional condition examples. The wheat penny, produced from 1909 through 1958, represents one of the most beloved and widely collected series in American numismatics, and the coins we've discussed today stand at the very apex of that series, representing the finest, rarest, and most valuable examples that exist. Whether you're a seasoned collector, a curious beginner, or someone who simply wondered whether those old pennies in your drawer might be worth something, I hope this video has provided you with valuable knowledge, inspiration to start searching, and perhaps most importantly, the understanding that extraordinary treasures can indeed be hiding in the most ordinary places, waiting for someone with the knowledge and dedication to recognize them. So go check those coin jars, examine those inherited collections, start searching through pennies with new eyes and new knowledge, because you never know when you might discover that life-changing coin that proves fortune truly does favor the prepared mind. Thank you for staying with me through this entire journey, and may your searches be rewarded with incredible discoveries that exceed your wildest dreams.